Hi friends! Welcome to another day of Relab. We are going to be reading our next chapter in the BFG. This chapter is called A Trogglehumper for the Fleshlumpeater. So remember, a Trogglehumper was that really bad dream, that nightmare that they caught in the last chapter. And now they just got back to giant country, but all the giants are asleep. They is always having 50 winks before they is going scumpering off to hunt human beings in the evening, the BFG said. He stopped for a few moments and let Sophie have a better look. Giants is only sleeping every then and now, he said. Not nearly as much as human beings. Human beings is crazy for sleeping. Is it ever occurring to you that a human being who is 50 is spending about 20 years sleeping fast? I admit that never occurred to me, Sophie said. You should allow it to occur to you, the BFG said. Imagine it, please. The human being who says he is 50 has been fast asleep for 20 years and not even knowing where he is, not even doing anything, not even thinking. It's a funny thought, Sophie said. Exactly, the BFG said. So what I is trying to explain to you is that a human being who says he is 50 is not 50. He's only 30. What about me? Sophie said. I'm 8. You is not 8 at all, the BFG said. Human being babies and little childers is spending half their time sleeping, so you is only 4. I'm 8, Sophie said. You may think you is 8, the BFG said, but you has only spent 4 years of your life with your little eyes open. You was only 4, and please stop higgling me. Titchy little snapper whippers like you should not be higgling around with an old sage like me, who is hundreds of years more than you. How much do giants sleep? Sophie asked. They is never wasting much time snozzling, the BFG said. 2 or 3 hours is enough. When do you sleep? Sophie asked. Even less, the BFG answered. I is sleeping only once in a blue baboon. Sophie, peeping out from her pocket, examined the 9 sleeping giants. They looked even more grotesque. That's a juicy word for gross. Even more grotesque now than when they were awake. Sprawled out across the yellow plain, they covered an area about the size of a football field. Most of them were lying on their backs with their enormous mouths wide open, and they were snoring like foghorns. The noise was awful. Suddenly, the BFG gave a jump in the air. By gum frog, he cried. I is just having the most wopsy-whiffling idea. Take a second, think about what is his plan. What do you think his plan is going to be? All right, let's see what it is. What? Sophie said. Wait, he cried. Hold your horse feathers. Keep your skirt on. Just wait until you see what I is going to bring about. He galloped off fast to his cave with Sophie hanging on tight to the rim of the pocket. He rolled back the stone. He entered the cave. He was very excited. He was moving quickly. You stay where you is in my pocket, Huggy Bee, he said. We are doing this lovely bit of swashbuckling together. He laid aside the dream-catching net, but hung on to the suitcase. He ran across the other side of the cave and grabbed the long trumpet thing, the one he had been carrying when Sophie had first seen him in the village. With the suitcase in one hand and the trumpet in the other, he dashed out of the cave. What is he up to now? Sophie wondered. Peep your head up good, the BFG said. Then you will get a fine wink of what is going on. When the BFG came near to the sleeping giants, he slowed his pace. He began moving softly. He crept on his toes toward the ugly brutes. They were snoring still, very loudly. They looked repulsive, filthy, diabolical. Ooh, so many juicy words. The BFG tiptoed around them. He went past the gizzard gulper, the blood bottler, the meat dripper, and the child chewer. Then he stopped. He had reached the Fleshlumpeater. He pointed at him, then looked down at Sophie, and then gave her a big wink. He knelt down on the ground and very quietly he opened the suitcase. He took out of it the glass jar containing the terrible, nightmarish Trogglehumper. At that point, Sophie guessed what was going to happen next. Ouch, she thought. This could be rather dangerous. She crouched lower in the pocket so that only the top of her head and her eyes were showing. She wanted to be ready to duck out of sight very fast should anything go wrong. They were about 10 feet away from the Fleshlumpeater's face. The snoring, snorting noise he was making was disgusting. Every now and then a big bubble of spit formed between his 2 open lips, and then it would burst with a splash to cover his whole face with saliva. Taking infinite care, the BFG unscrewed the top of the glass jar and tipped the squiggling, squirming, faintly scarlet Trogglehumper into the wide end of his long trumpet. He put the other end of the trumpet to his lips. He aimed the trumpet directly at the Fleshlumpeater's face. He took a deep breath, puffed out his cheeks, and then he blew. Sophie saw a flash of pale red go darting towards the giant's face. For a split second, it hovered above the face. Then it was gone. It seemed to have been sucked up the giant's nose, but it all happened so quickly, Sophie couldn't be sure. "We had better be skittling away quick to where it is safe," the BFG whispered. He trotted off for about 100 yards, then stopped. He crouched low to the earth. "Now," he said, "we is waiting for the gun and flames to begin." They didn't have long to wait. The air was suddenly pierced by the most powerful roar Sophie had ever heard. She saw the Fleshlumpeater's body, all 54 feet of it, rise up above the ground and then fall back again with a thump. Then it began to wriggle and twist and bounce in the most violent fashion. It was quite frightening to watch. "Ew!" growled the Fleshlumpeater. "Aye, ow!" "He's still asleep," the BFG whispered. "The terrible Trogglehumping nightmare is beginning to hit him." "Serves him right," Sophie said. She could feel no sympathy for this great brute who ate children as though they were sugar lumps. "Save us!" screamed the Fleshlumpeater, thrashing about madly. "He's after me! He's getting me!" The thrashing of limbs and the waving of arms became more violent by the second. And here's the BFG blowing the Trogglehumper into the giant, into the Fleshlumpeater. It was an awesome thing to watch, such a massive creature having such mighty convulsions. "It's Jack!" bellowed the Fleshlumpeater. "It's the grewful, grunches Jack! Jack is after me! Jack is whack-cracking me! Jack is spike-sticking me! Jack is splash-splunking me! It is the most terrible, fright-swiping Jack!" The Fleshlumpeater was writhing about on the ground like some colossal, tortured snake. "Oh, spare me, Jack!" he yelled. "Don't hurt me, Jack!" "Who is this Jack he's on about?" Sophie whispered. "Jack is the only human being all giants are frightened of," the BFG told her. They is absolutely terrified of Jack. They is all hearing that Jack is a famous giant killer. And here he is, writhing on the ground, rolling over. "Save me!" screamed the Fleshlumpeater. "Have mercy on this poor little giant! The beanstalk! He's coming at me with this terrible, spike-sticking beanstalk! Take it away! I is begging you, Jack! I is praying you not to touch me with your terrible, spike-sticking beanstalk!" Some of you might be making a text-to-text connection, because Jack and the Beanstalk is a story about a boy named Jack who grows the beanstalk and goes up to the land of the giants. So interesting, Roald Dahl made that text-to-text connection. Us giants, the BFG whispered, is not knowing very much about this dreaded human being called Jack. We is only knowing that he is a famous giant killer and that he is owning something called a beanstalk. We is knowing that the beanstalk is a fearsome thing, and Jack is using it to kill giants. Sophie couldn't stop smiling. "What is you griggling at?" the BFG asked her, slightly nettled. "I'll tell you later," Sophie said. And here they are talking, and you can see the two of them are talking and hiding, and there's the Fleshlumpeater being tortured over there. Oh my goodness. The awful nightmare had now gripped the great brute to such an extent that he was tying his whole body into knots. "Don't do it, Jack," he screeched. "I was not eating you, Jack. I is never eating human beings. I swear I's never gobbled a single human being in my whole entire life." "Liar," said the BFG. Just then, one of the Fleshlumpeater's flailing fists caught the still fast asleep, meat-dripping giant smack in the mouth. At the same time, one of his furious, thrashing legs kicked the snoring Gizzard-Gulper giant right in the guts. Both the injured giants woke up and leapt to their feet. "He is swiping me right in the mouth," yelled the meat dripper. "He is bug-swallowing me smack in the guts," shouted the Gizzard-Gulper. The two of them rushed at the Fleshlumpeater and began pounding him with their fists and feet. The wretched Fleshlumpeater woke up with a bang. He awoke straight from one nightmare into another. He roared into battle, and in the bellowing, thumping, rough and tumble that followed, one sleeping giant after another either got stepped on or kicked. Soon all 9 of them were on their feet, having the most almighty free-for-all. They all punched and kicked and scratched. And there they go. Goodness. They all bit and buttered each other as hard as they could. Blood flowed, noses went crunch, teeth out like hailstones. The giants roared and screamed and cursed, and for many minutes the noise of the battle rolled across the yellow plain. The BFG smiled a big, wide smile of absolute pleasure. "I is loving it when they is all having a good toughin' rumble," he said. "They'll kill each other," Sophie said. "Never," the BFG answered. "Those beasts is always bishing and walloping at one another. Soon it will be getting dusky, and they will be galloping off to fill their tummies." "They're coarse and foul and filthy," Sophie said. "I hate them." As the BFG headed back to the cave, he said quietly, "We certainly was putting that nightmare to good use, though, wasn't we?" "Excellent use," Sophie said. "Well done, you." And that is the end of that chapter. The next chapter we'll read is called Dreams. All right, see you later, friends.